forced throughout our land. Ayat 1. Take unto thyself a wife, and obey the ordinance of Allah. Take unto thyself a wife, and become a faithful member of society. But examine with care, and fix not suddenly. On thy present choice depends on thy future happiness. If much of her time is destroyed in dress and adornment, if she is enamored with her own beauty and delighted with her own praise, if she laugheth much and talketh loud, if her foot abideth not in her father's house, and her eyes with boldness roll on the faces of men, though her beauty were as the sun in the firmament of heaven, turn thy face from her charms, turn thy feet from her path, and suffer not thy soul to be ensnared by the allurements of imagination. But when thou findest sensibility of heart joined with softness of manners, an accomplished mind with a form agreeable to thy fancy, take her home to thy house. She is worthy to be thy friend, thy companion in life, and thy wife of thy bosom. Ayat 5. Oh, cherish her as a blessing sent to thee from heaven. Let the kindness of thy behavior endear thee to her heart. She is the mistress of thy house. Treat her therefore with respect, that thy servant may obey her. Ayat 7. Oppose not her inclination without cause. She is the partner of thy cares. Make her also the companion of thy pleasures. Ayat 8. Reprove her faults with gentleness. Exact not her obedience with rigor. Trust thy secrets in her breast. Her counsels are sincere. Thou shalt not be deceived. Be faithful to her bed, for she is mother of thy children. When pain and sickness assault her, let thy tenderness soothe her affliction, and look from thee of pity, and love shall alleviate her grief, or instigate her pain, and be of more avail than 10 physicians. Consider the tenderness of her sex, the delicacy of her frame, and be not too near to her weakness, but remember thine own imperfections. Islam, Islam, Islam. I am Dr. Marvin Edwards Bay, Consul General of the Texas Territory. Today's date is January 10th, 2026. We give honor to our National Assistant Grand Sheikh of North America, Dr. Alku Hulu Yahudi Bay, for the opening of our Morse Prospectus class according to law. And honors to Dr. Marvin Edwards Bay for the reading of the chapter of the week and for taking registration. Our host for tonight's class is our National Grand Sheikh of North America, Dr. Shedua Mikiel Moheted Sepet Suel. The subject on the floor is duty of a husbandman. We will now call to the floor our host, the National Grand Sheikh of North America. Islam, you there, God, man?
Unmuted.
You hear me?
Islam, yeah, we on the manifest, brother. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I hear you loud and clear.
Praise be to Allah. Islamism without the schism. But let us rise upon the seven within the unbroken circle of justice, mercy, love, and right, and give all praises to the great God Allah, Father God Allah, and honors to his holy prophet, honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, Al-Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali, that is. We give honors to our Moorish kin once again, here, there, and everywhere, and therefore honors to all of you who are continuously honoring yourselves by being yourselves. We give honors to our Grand National Seal. We give honors to our Grand National Emblem, National Flag, Divine Constitution and bylaws, and honors to all of you who are indeed a living manifestation and personification of everything that our Holy Prophet brought to exhume us as a nation. We give honors to, our Holy Prophet, for this manifestation week that we are celebrating. We have some grand measures to bring forth to our family throughout, this special celebration. Praise be to Allah. We got a lot to offer to our Moorish kin. Praise be to Allah. So we just say Islamism without the schism, and we here to uplift fallen humanity. But we got a grand drawing to bring on the manifest tonight in relation to dealing with our chapter, and it is most definitely a grand degree as we relate to this special measure. Instead of going into the actual matrimonial Hajj on the manifest, we are going to go into, what we would call a spiritual consultation, because there's a consultation that takes place before there can be a consummation as it relates to our matrimonial Hajj. The reason why we name this the duty of the husbandman as opposed to the husband, because as we draw from this special measure and deal with the duty of the husbandman, we reflect upon chapter 1 in our Moorish Holy Quran. And it tells us when we go into this special drawing that the human seed that came forth from the heart of Allah was foreordained to be the Lord of the plane of soul and the Lord of the plane of things made manifest. This is very important. And it says, so Allah, the husbandman of everything that is, threw forth his human seed into the soil of soul. It grew apace and man became a living soul, and he became the Lord of all the kingdom of soul. You see? So once we understand this is special demonstration here, this is a powerful measure. It says, hark now, let every creature hear the plane of soul is but the ether of the spirit plane vibrating not so fast. So this is what a seed was planted now. And in the slower rhythm of this plane, the essence of life are manifest, and the perfumes and the odors, the true sensations, and the all of love manifest. Before there can be a consummation between, anyone on the manifest, the all of love has to be manifest, meaning that one has to be full of love in order to be able to give love. So this is what we're talking about. And rather than go into the aspect between a man and woman on the manifest, we want to go into the adept degree of dealing with the soul of man as seed itself being planted into the soil of the soul by the husband, Allah himself. And the soul is often referred to as her in our Moorish Holy Quran. So that's a whole nother degree. So this is actually the grand measure as it relates to the concept of the Ish and Isha degree. let's put it like this. Before there can be union on the plane of things made manifest, there has to be a matrimonial Hajj in the plane of that which is unmanifest. Meaning it can't be seen with the carnal eyes of man. Nor can anything in relation to this special measure be heard in relation to dealing with the ears of carnal man. You know, so it's a grand drawing that we had to bring on the manifest. And this is in honor of our holy prophet. You know, there has to be a consummation between the law and Allah. You know, a man must be in union with the law and Allah. The God woman must be in union with the law and Allah before they can actually take on to themselves a spouse. So we're not so much dealing with the physical aspect in this special drawing, but we're going to go into the Hajj so that ones can see, you know, the actual preparation, right, and what this right here entails to. And also to those who would like to come on our panel, we had a grand drawing on the manifest of a link. So, you know, most definitely you can go to the email, and hopefully the email came out, because it wasn't letting me send out emails in regards to dinner. Oh, yeah, it must did, because my Grand Secretary of the State is here. Islamism without the schism. This is a very powerful demonstration. You know, we're going to let y'all see what more science look like. And the reason why, you know, it is that we know that our holy prophet has brought these measures just as he did in order to give us some divine insight if we would but take heed. I want to do something first and foremost. As we have explained to you who the husbandman is, and now we are going to go into the grand drawing in relation to dealing with how we're going to go into this matrimonial Hajj. So give us 1 second here. Just got to make a brief little correction here, nothing major. Remember, Allah is the husbandman. So brothers, this is the example that we have to learn from. Just like Allah cast forth his seed, that it must be cast into the soil that one may grow apace, we have to cast forth our seed within the soil of soul, you know, that, you know, this love thought may grow apace, you know, and then both the God man and the God woman in action can be what we call the strength of Allah made manifest, Ish and Isha. Ish and Isha. So brothers, you got to get in tune with the Ish and Isha in you. And sister, you got get in tune with the Ish and Isha within yourself. You know, before there can be any type of union. You see? This is very important that one get this drawing. So what does this have to do, you know, with the work of our holy prophet? As you can see on the bottom of the screen, we have the duty of a husbandman in the matrimonial Hajj of the Egyptian adept master. Powerful demonstration. In other words, we talking about obtaining the 7th adept degree, going through unfoldment. In our questionnaire, the 101s, we are asked the question: at what place on earth was the physical part of man formed? And the answer was given in the Garden of Eden. Where is the Garden of Eden? In the land of Canaan, in the city of Mecca. I want to keep that in mind. What is the modern name for the Garden of Eden? Mecca, right? What is the name of the first physical man? His name cannot be used only by the executive rulers of the AC of the MST of A, and they would say AC of the MHT of A in the 102s, which is very important. You know, and we know that, what are the words AC of the MS of the Moorish Science Temple of America? Third heaven. In the 102s, it would say adept chamber of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, which is very important, being the original. You know, so it goes on so far as to say who are Adam and Eve. They are the mothers and fathers of the human family, Asiatics and Muslims. Where did they go? They went into Asia. What does the modern name give to their children? Asiatics. Who is God in the holy city of Mecca today to keep the unbelievers away? Angels. You know, what is the modern name for those angels? Asiatics. That's in the 101s now. And when we go into the 102s, those same questions being asked, again, you know, it follows on from what are the words AC of the MHT of S, adept chamber of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, third heaven. Who were Adam and Eve? They were the ones who brought about discord in the holy city of Mecca and were cast out. Where did they go? They went into Europe. What is the modern name given to their children? Romans. What is the shade of their skin? Pale. Who is God in the holy city of Mecca today to keep them from returning or re-entering? Angels. You see? This is a powerful demonstration here. And this is the one we're going to really emphasize on when we talk about a Moorish Holy Temple of Science. Getting into that special demonstration. Once you understand that what is called the Garden of Eden is Mecca, you know, and we talk about the name of the first physical man, which we know is not, you know, one that is used and known by the common masses. But we ain't going into that. We want to emphasize on, you know, Mecca, you know, and what Mecca means on a deeper level. It ain't strange that the expression AC of the MHT of S, you know, a Moorish Holy Temple of Science was used, because we know holy means something that has not been stained, you know, painted, dyed, or, you know, diluted or anything like that when we talk about something holy. We know Moorish means more God than a mere man, more God than a mere woman, so to speak. You see, Moorish, holy, and then we got the Temple of Perfected Man and the science, which is a living manifestation. You see, this is where your Mecca is. This is the third heaven. This is your Garden of Eden, so to speak. You see? Now, how do we go there? How do we enter into this special degree of unfoldment? Remember, when we're dealing with the third heaven, if we are dealing with our adept degrees, and we move from 331, you know, which 3 in the first aspect and 3 in the second aspect, and then we go into the last aspect, that's 1, that's 7. So this is a very important measure that we bring it on the manifest here, and that we want to emphasize. You know, this 331 is very important. So when we talk about Mecca, let's go into the definition of Mecca real quick. And we're going to come back to the questionnaire as well. Let's see here. I just want to make sure that I have everything up here. We'll just do the entire screen. And yeah, there you go. Share that. And then we'll go into everything from here. Let's go here first. The definition of the word Hajj. Hajj, and when we talk about a matrimonial Hajj, or the Egyptian adept master, and we come into some clarity, the Hajj is in relation to a pilgrimage that one makes within. Listen to what it says, Hajjah, to intend a certain target, aim at, repair, undertake, aim, argue, contend with, go on a pilgrimage, overcome in dispute, plead, the pilgrimage to Makkah. This is the Hajj. So what about our pilgrimage into Makkah? Not Canaan on the manifest, but the Garden of Eden that is within oneself, that third heaven. You see, the pilgrimage to Makkah, Hijjun, the same as Hajj, or Hijjun, one who performed the pilgrimage. Used also for a group of pilgrims as a noun of kind. Hijaj, or Hijjatun, a single pilgrim. You know, a year. Hujjatun, argument, cause of dispute, disputing about, to dispute with, tahajja, to dispute with one another. See, one has to come into what we call a reckoning with the self, in consultation, so to speak, before one can actually begin to try to mingle or intertwine themselves, you know, with anyone else outside of the self. You see, there has to be an ordeal, just like we have to go into a preparation chamber or the room of resolution to get it right. You know, this has to be done when it comes to consultation. Even on the manifest, when you deal with a consultation for consummation or two souls to come together, that consultation is to prepare, is to bring out anything, you know, that one may have not been aware of, you know, before this thing come, you know, forth, and then next thing you know, God forbid, these things come out later after the union has been consummated. You know, and now you got a whole bunch of arguing. So if it's going to be any arguing and people getting upset and making up their mind whether or not they want to come together, this is dealing with the manifest right here now. You know, one got to get all this stuff here, these skeletons out the closet. And so this is why, in the aim of one coming into the Hajj or going into the journey, you know, it's going to be a grand ordeal, you know, in this room of resolution when dealing with consultation. So just as that's the same dealing with a brother and a sister before you make preparation to bring these ones together, Allah is the one that actually bring forth together two souls. When we take this on a spiritual level, you know, the individual, whether it be a brother or sister, they have to go into an ordeal within the chamber of the self, dealing with rites, ceremonies, and form as it relates to the soul. They have to go into that chamber and deal with everything that is about them in order to unfold into who they are. Now, this is parallel with what our Holy Prophet had to do when he went into the subterranean chambers, you know, beneath the earth, so to speak. You know, once he entered the paws of the Sphinx, you know, and going underground in those subterranean vaults, or what they call the grotto, the grand ordeal was for him to confront himself, just like us. You know, one thing about it, you carry yourself wherever you go. So you can't hide from you. You may be able to fool people on the plane of things made manifest about who you profess or you proclaim to be. But nevertheless, when you find yourself alone, you know, and you deal with the self, this is a whole degree of unfoldment. And this is what one actually has to do in preparation of becoming an adept. So there's a symbolic Hajj matrimony on the spiritual level that one goes through. And you can see a lot of the parallels that one goes through on the manifest. But again, this Hajj is what prepares one for the matrimonial Hajj as it relates to somebody else. Because if you haven't dealt with you, then you ain't going to be able to deal with nobody. In other words, you got to find your Garden of Eden within you. You got to find the state of peace, tranquility, and so forth and so on within you. You got to get rid of the controversy and everything else, you know, and then you can become a true mastermind. So that's what all this has to do. You know, only you can make room for you. So who you think gonna be pleading your call? What is the intent? You see, what's the intent for one to become adept, which means to be skilled? Is it dealing with the plane of thing made manifest? What is the intent if you was on the manifest seeking, you know, a spouse? Because it's going to be various degrees that come forth even when you consummate. That's definitely going to take some adept skill to overcome, truth be told. Because there are no grand degrees of perfection, you know, in regards to dealing with these things. Now, when you come into what we call the exegesis commentary, you know, they emphasize, you know, the concept of the Hajj as well. And, you know, there's always some grand, beautiful degrees that come from, you know, this exegesis, you know, and most of the time, a Hajj is dealing with the pilgrimage of to Mecca. You know, it actually has to do with a purification process. You see, we go into, let's get a description here. And we are looking at these ayats as they relate to a sign. It states the prescribed Muslim pilgrimage, a Hajj, takes place once a year in the month of Dhul Hijjah, whereas the Umrah, a pious visit to Mecca, may be performed at any time. So every year, there is a Hajj that takes place in Makkah. Wouldn't you think that if we were dealing with the adept degree and going into Makkah from the aspect of an internal Hajj, that this should be cyclic too? 7 days in a circle is a year. So we should be in a cyclic mode of unfoldment when it comes to going to Makkah. It shouldn't be the first time that you consummate, you know, to go into a unity with a brother or sister, you know, and y'all on the manner. You should constantly be going and making Hajj, not even yearly, but daily. We should be making Hajj, you see, in remembrance. And this is the same thing when it comes to dealing with the spiritual, a matrimonial Hajj within, that one has to do before they consummate physically. One should already be in a state of mind where they have come through a cyclic process to making progress with themselves. And then they will better be prepared to unite with other souls, not just for the aspect of marriage union, but any particular type of union, as it had to do with relationships where people come together to work together. One has to make Hajj. See, we want to, when we get into these aspects of moral science, you know, we are very practical in making these things applicable and taking them beyond mere rites, ceremonies, and forms. So it says, in both the Hajj and Umrah, the pilgrims are required to walk 7 times around the Kaaba, 7 times between the hilltops of Safa and Marwa. In the course of Hajj, they must also attend a gathering on the plain of Arafat Mount Arafat, the 9th day of the month, Dhul Hijjah. This constitutes the culmination of the Hajj. You know, they call one night the night of power during the month of Ramadan. 9th month and 27th day, I always like to draw on that because, you know, we deal with the date of birth from that aspect. You know, when the Grand Quran was revealed. But in essence, in regards to dealing with, you know, the rites of walking 7 times around the Kaaba and 7 times between the hilltops of Safa and Marwa, we can actually see how this really is in relation to dealing with the journey that one takes, you know, between the hilltops within the self, as it relates to the 7 centers or the 7 heavens that are within. 7 times, you know, one has to go through these various different degrees of unfoldment and overcome. We went through this not long ago when we was talking about, you know, the Eastern mind and Western body, a Western mind, pardon self, and Eastern body. You know, we went through this. So these hilltops represent different points, you know, from point to point as we are looking with the 7 eyes of Allah, or what we call chakra points. You know, a brother and a sister has to master these degrees within. This is the Hajj that we referred to, starting at the root chakra, you know, and coming on up through these various different degrees. And there has to be a marriage between Ish and Isha at each level, you know, of these chakra points. You know, we know what the base chakra represent. This is where there's an imprisonment of what we call the Kundalini energy, you know, which is often depicted as a goddess. So the brother, the husbandman within oneself, has to liberate that goddess and bring her on solid ground, you know, above the cares of the world, so to speak, uplifting her just as the prophet uplifted fallen humanity when he was stepping out the waters. You know, this is the real measure. You know, in other words, by the time one is delivered from that special demonstration, the goddess energy, by the husband within, ones will be up into the realm of what we call the crown chakra. But there's a process as one moves up, because coming up through the liberation pathway, after that we have coming from the base of the spine, the scimitar sacrum, because that's what the brother has to do. He has to forge, you know, that special scimitar, you know, in order to raise and rescue the goddess. And then when one begins to move here now, he has that companion. The husbandman has a companion after the seed has been planted. And him and the God woman ascends up the ladder of the other 6 degrees together. You know, there has to be a mastery in this next level that deals with, you know, what a lot of people like to call, you know, the lingam. Sometimes they call it that, or we call it the realm of, you know, physical reproduction. You know, this region has to be mastered, you know, by the husbandman. And he has to continue to uplift the goddess, you know, and go up beyond that, you know, into the realm of the umbilical cord, or the navel, so to speak, the solar plexus. You see what I'm saying? This is where the passions and the desires at. You know, then, you know, one has to lift up from that particular level and go into the realm of the heart. You see, the purification process that takes place there. So this one has planted himself as a seed unfolded as the scimitar and liberated the God woman or the goddess within, Kundalini energy, and they are ascending together now. You know, one goes beyond the heart after purification process, and then one goes into the realm, you know, of what we call the expression of command, you know, where ones are able to manifest, you know, their love in word and profess it, proclaim it together. And then they continue to ascend, you know, into the next measure, into what we call the realm of the ajna, or the third eye. Now they begin to see spiritually together. Oh, what a beautiful vision, or vision beautiful. And then they ascend all the way into the crown chakra. You see? And once they get into this special realm, this is the peak of their wisdom. This is third heaven. This is the chamber in which the consummation is truly demonstrated. This is where Allah actually binds two souls. Now, though this may be done individually, simultaneously, there's a measure of duality where this thing is taking place on the spirit plane. In other words, this has to take place, that same process I just went through. It has to take place within the brother and the sister. And by the time, you know, they reach the crown, now they are able to come together in union and reign supreme as a king and a queen. Reign supreme as God man and God woman, God and goddess. This is the grand degree of the work of demonstrating the concept of adept. That's why it's purposeful. See, a lot of people be talking about adept this and adept that, but many of our people don't understand that to become an adept is really to prepare you for your life sum and everything it is that you was born to demonstrate or come into. So you became an adept so that you can be a better spouse, a better husband, a husbandman, so that you can be a better co-worker, you know, if you're working somewhere, you know, so that you can be a better teacher, leader, guide. In other words, your adept degree is valid in all walks of life. It's not something like, you know, a high school, you know, diploma or a college degree, you know, where these things are limited to a particular job that you may be striving toward, you know, in order to bring about a grand degree of livelihood. The adept degree, again, that you receive, you know, is applicable in all walks of life. That's the purpose of the matrimonial hearth. So it says the pilgrims are required to remain on that plane until the sun sets. Think about that. The multitude of pilgrims then moved back in the direction of Makkah, stopping overnight at a place called Muzdalifah, and then Mina for 2, 3, or 4 days. Irrespective of whether they are performing a Hajj or only Umrah, the pilgrims must enter into the state of Ihram until the end of the pilgrimage, till the offering reaches its destination means Tarazi, the time sacrifice, and in this case, the conclusion of the pilgrimage. Tamatu relates to an interruption in the state of pilgrimage, Ihram, during the time between the completion of Umrah and the performance of Hajj, and the pilgrim who takes advantage of this is obliged to sacrifice an animal. How about we sacrifice them, that lower self, that animal or the lower self, and then fast for some days, 10 days here in Tamatu. After the performance of the Hajj, the pilgrim no longer remains in the state of Ihram. So yeah, this Hajj, you know, though you take it yearly, you can take it anytime you want to take it. So, you know, these are some of the measures in relation to dealing with the rituals and rites. But we took it a degree further because we are talking about the preparation rites so that we may enter Mecca. And this is why it's necessary. Once you get into the realm of the people that represent the higher self, then you become one of the angels who protect the holy city of Mecca. So in other words, a God woman and a God man that have purified their hearts and mind and they came together in consummation, can't no demon come up in there and plant no seeds in the garden of that goddess, and she gonna listen and allow one to take her off the count. Can't no demoness come in there to no brother and plant no seeds in his mind. You see, so in the higher realm of thought, we know intuition and telepathy represent the last two of the chakra points, or the two that held where the rest fell. In most cases, if one get caught up on those things, you know, we understand from this special degree that ones are able to hold a thought of divinity. Ones become chief protectors, you know, and guides through principles. You know, that's why we always talk about, you know, cherubim and seraphim as they relate to the scimitar and the star, you know, and this becomes the order of one's consciousness. See? So once you have this special thought pattern, ain't no naught coming up in there. You know, none of those realms that were mastered on one's way up from the root, so to speak, you know, none of these things can sway us. Ones couldn't sway you, you know, with the lustful thinking and lustful seeds. Ones couldn't sway you by controlling your passions, you know, and tossing, you know, bait out there for you to look for, because you think that you're going, you know, basically be able to, let's say, have what you desire. You know, and so when one come up through those realms, you know, dealing with the heart, if the heart is pure, you know, then nothing impure, you know, will ever take root, you know, within your heart. You see? If we are dealing with living, you know, according to divine words, you know, then there are no words that anyone can bring to you that will be stronger than the command of your higher self. No words of one demonstrating the lower self. You see? So you would already have been masters of that, brothers and sisters. And the same thing when it comes to your spiritual mind. There will be no thoughts that will enter your consciousness that will cause you to move contrary to anything that dictates from the higher self, because you already mastered, you know, certain measures. All of your thoughts manifest purely. So they are under protection of that scimitar of mastery, that scimitar of consciousness. You know, the star, which is synonymous to the principles, being guided by the principles love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, you know, through the seraphic degree, you know, as it links up to the spirit of the Almighty God, Allah. Ain't no way in the world that none of y'all can be misguided. Whomsoever Allah guide, none can misguide. Whomsoever Allah allows to go upon the path of misguidance, none can guide. But you would have been guided if you have went on this Hajj, if you would have mastered your higher self and lower self. You see? This is what we're getting at. So this is what we call a preparatory stage of consultation with the self. Yeah, we know people have to deal with consultation on the manifest, but until you are able to deal with consultation in the self, you will never be able to be honest with yourself. And honesty is the best policy. Health is to the body as honesty is to the soul. So this has to take place within. This is your true expression of initiation when it comes to unfolding through your adept degrees. There are no strange happenings. Every prophet and mastermind had to go through these same degrees. We see Muhammad went through the 7 heavens. Go into the story, and they'll tell you every aspect about the 7 heavens that Prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah himself had to go through and unfold. So, like, we can't make this up, family. It don't get no plainer than the truth. It don't get no plainer than the truth. Yeah. So, and if you can, Moors that are here, make sure you share this broadcast, so that our people can tune in. I actually did drawing on this particular measure when I was talking earlier about the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. I did a post on Facebook. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go back and share the screen and show our family what we're talking about. Hold up here. Right there. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is one of the posts that I had did. And I say in the original tools, our Holy Prophet made reference to the 3rd heaven, the adept chamber, the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. And we just told you what that really means, right? It says, in reference to the question that follows, we are told that the meaning is adept chamber of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, M-A-N, which is man, the master of Allah's nature, Master Ibn Noble, Moorish American national. Hence, in the adept chamber degrees of Islamism, we find MHT of S in relation to what we call Marifa, Hakika, Tariqa, and Sharia. The Quranic circle of the Qutub, Al-Tab, and Abdal, aka Circle 7. Thank me later. We mentioned that word Abdal, last night as it related to master in Tasawwuf, the mystic teachings of Islam. It is the mystic that becomes the Abdal or the adept, that becomes the center of those quadrants as a representative of what we call the Circle 7 made manifest. So when the brother, reaches the realm of mastery within the self, and there's a union between the Ish and the Isha within him, this is when man himself is the Circle 7 of the time. That woman, that God woman that he's destined to meet and come into oneness with, if she has mastered herself, she too is the God woman in Circle 7 of the time. Both coming from, bloodlines that will later tie in to unity, spiritual bloodline. We went further into this. We're going to get back into those measures in a minute. Just know Marifa, Hakikat, and Tariqat and Shariat actually represent the 4 quadrants. Know that. Just for starters. Know that you represent being the Abdal, or the mystic, the adept. You are in the center of all of this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. The law, the path, the truth, and the reality. Because that's what really Sharia represents. Sharia represents law, Tariqah represents paths, numerous pathways. Hakikat means the truth. After coming through those paths, and Marifat, is basically the end result. This is fruition of the reality of your journey. That's what happened when you reach, what we call the 7th heaven. So we went on and we quoted Genesis chapter 3, verse 24. So he drove out the man. You see? And he placed at the east of the garden of Eden cherubims and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way to the tree of life. So in other words, you know, like cherubim and seraphim was placed in the Garden of Eden to the east, and the east represent within us, you know, our flaming sword represents illuminated consciousness, which permeates above our neck to keep every way to the tree of life. In other words, ain't no demonic thoughts gonna come up in there. You know, ain't nothing finna enter but something that's pure in thought. Remember, angel is a thought of Allah made manifested in human flesh. So we went on to the circle 7. And notice what the circle 7, Moorish Holy Quran in chapter 1, which we was quoting earlier. This excerpt, it states, but man will regain his lost estate. Wait a minute, it tells us in Genesis that man was drove out. But now it's telling us in the Moorish Holy Quran that he would gain his lost estate, his heritage. But he must do it in a conflict that cannot be told in words. Yeah, he must suffer trials and temptations manifold. But let him know that the cherubim and seraphim that rule the stations of the sun and the spirit of the Almighty God Allah, who rule the solar stars, are his protectors and his guide, and they will lead to victory. This is why we always say Allah is leading on, and victory is sure. Cherubim and seraphim, spirit of the Almighty God Allah. We can't make this stuff up. I didn't bring that. The prophet brought it. I'm just quoting it. So you see the picture here that we have, and if you really pay attention, it's science here. You know, just like we have in our flag, we have 4 quadrants, and then we have the star and the scimitar in the flag. If you see the angelic expression of the image that's right here, for those of you who can see it, you know, the grand expressions of the quadrant as it relates to the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, M, H, T, and S, are Marifat, Hakikat, Tariqah, Shariat. Man, how much of a coincidence that is. That the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, as it relates to the God man or the adept, would also relate to these pathways of knowledge. There's a grand degree of wisdom that's in all of this here. You know, Marifat, Hakikat, Tariqah, Sharia. We're going to get into this in a minute. Master, able, noble. Notice we coming up. You know, man becomes the swift angel, unfolds from the degree of swift angel to cherubim and seraphim, and becomes one with the spirit of the Almighty God Allah. Then we can proclaim arm, leg, arm, head, or I self, Lord, am master. See? Or we can even say I self, Lord, am master. Or we can say I separate Lucifer and man with that scimitar. So one has demonstrated the expression of a matrimonial Hajj, becoming one through deific will with the great God Allah. It was the deific tie between Ish and Isha within man, and their rise from the root all the way back up to the crown. You see? This is very important. And then we understand, you know, who made us. We understand who was our true mother and father. It was not Adam and Eve. It was Ish and Isha. Spirit man and spirit woman. See? So everything that we speak of, family, is a living manifestation. There's so much wisdom to be unpacked as it relates to this special information that we're giving you right now. You can't get this nowhere else. So what we find, family, as we go into these special expressions of the four quadrants as they relate to the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. You know, we say Shariat, Tariqat, Hakikat, and Marifat. Shariat again deals with the law and the path. If the God man and God woman are living their lives correctly, then divine law governs all events that relates to their actions. In other words, it corrects, the law is utilized to correct their behavior, their worship, their ethics, social conduct. That's the purpose of the law that, you know, we receive. This is the work that has to be done alone, though. You see, even though your spiritual companion may be working on themselves like you working on yourself, spiritually, you all may be doing the work together, but in all actuality, you have to do this work on an individual basis. Fasting, prayer, charity, pilgrimage, understanding what is called halal and haram, you know, what is right and what is wrong, you know, the foundation of Islamism. No spiritual path exists without it. I, self, Lord, am master, remember? So Shariat represents the body, you know, of one's deen or religion, so to speak. It ties one back to the source. Then you have Tariqat, the next quadrant. And we're moving counterclockwise. We're moving clockwise, not counterclockwise is what I meant to say. You know, so that bottom right quadrant moving from Shariat to Tariqat, you know, this is the way. You know, now that one has come through the process of law and one is used as a vessel to be a living manifestation of that law, now you have to travel through the pathway. You have to go the way. If you know the way, you got to go the way. This is a spiritual path. Tariqat also is an expression for star. And we are often told that we are people that come from the stars. We travel through the path of stars. When we astro project, you know, begin to read the books of Allah's Register of Remembrance. You see, a lot of this has to do with, you know, why it says that we will be under the protection, you know, under these stars and sun and the solar, you know, the guidance of the great God Allah. But Tariqat in meaning has to do with, you know, a discipline of a spiritual methodology. In other words, you have to organize your process in order to make some progress, you know, in your spiritual path. You can't just be willy-nilly and all over the place. You got to have some foundation in your life, people. You know, focus has to do with inner purification and moral refinement. And one is often guided on the plane of things made manifest by a sheikh, a murshid is what they call them. Sheikh come from the word shuyikun, which actually refers to the great God Allah. So Allah guides man or speaks to man through man. He speaks to you through your sheikh. Allah guides you through your sheikh or your murshid. You know, dhikr, you know, which is a draw. And they talk about a book of remembrance being written in the book of Malachi. You know, but dhikr means the remembrance of the great God Allah, the book of Allah's remembrance. Remembering who made you, always in a state of mind, discipline, humility. You know, this has to be done individually and collective, brothers and sisters. Struggle against the ego, or the nafs, or the anfusihum. We already know the 3 degrees of nafs. Amara, lawama, mutma'inna. So tariqat, or the way of the spiritual path, has to do with the training of the soul. Just as the Shariat trains the body, the discipline of the body, Tariqat trains the soul. So moving on up the left side, going clockwise, you know, we come to the degree of haqiqat. You know, this is the truth, or ultimate reality that one actually comes into. You know, the meaning or the realization of divine truth. You know, focus, unity, certainty, divine presence, where one sees with spiritual clarity, no contradiction between the inner truth and outward law. The servant acts by Allah's will, not the ego. Ego ain't got nothing to say when you reach this realm. Hakikat is living the truth itself. So that's what the path way of traveling through training of the soul leads you to. And last but not least, then you come into what we call Marifa. This is the last quadrant on the top right, above the quadrant that you begin from. Marifat deals with gnosis, or direct knowing. After everything that you have studied and coming into the realization of truth through the ultimate reality, knowing what it is, now you come into the true meaning of the gnosis as a result of direct knowledge, and this is inner knowledge of divine reality. When you are sure of who made you and the deific tie between you and your maker, then that is enough to allow the bond to remain strong in any relationship you have, be it between a spouse or even just dealing with common companionship when it relates to friends. So in Marifat, we learn to focus our spiritual insight on that which is beyond book learning. Awareness of Allah is seen and recognized in all things. This is where the heart knows what the tongue can't even explain. And it's often associated with what we call being a friend of Allah, Awliya, the Wali of Allah. So the Marifat is actually the eye of the heart opening. So there's an opening up of the way, so to speak, as it relates to this special drawing, family. So we are dealing with the relationship in the order as it comes from the body conforming to the law, the soul and the spirit conforming to the path. And then when one comes into that reality, of living the truth, then one can actually come into the reality of being the truth. A righteous example, one's heart, spiritual heart, is open, purified and clean. So Shariat, or the law without Hakikat, or the truth, that's empty form. That's what we call a temple without no altar fires. Hakikat without Shariat is illusion. And we know what Maya and illusion represents. So true masters or masterminds uphold all four of these quadrants simultaneously. So you see the science that is found to be embodied within the four quadrants that have been brought to us. And then when we stand in the center as circle 7, as masters, adepts, what this really represents. And notice these quadrants are often blue because we are moving through the blue ethers. There are drawings in the teaching of Tasawwuf where it is stated, Shariat is my words, Tariqat is my actions, Hakikat is my state, and Marifat is my goal. Again, Shariat, the law, is my word. Tariqat, the path, is my action. Hakikat, that relates to the truth, is my state of being. Man is the truth of Allah, and Allah is the truth. Man is all, and all is Allah. That's your state. And Marifat is my goal. See, that's the destiny that is not uncertain or unknown. Marifat, being in the reality of that special truth, family. So when we understand this from a high degree of unfoldment, and we really go into the essence of this, we get exactly, what these things represent. And as we refer to the quadratic circle or the circle 7, in essence, this circle is actually governed by spiritual hierarchy of the world. There's a hierarchy in each one of these quadrants. When you're dealing with the Shariat of the law, there's a hierarchy that governs that. There's a hierarchy that governs, the tariqat. The hierarchy represent, those who instruct you with the physical law and the Shariat. Those who instruct you, with the divine law, as it relates to tariqat, or mystic law. And then we go through again hakikat, the truth, the spiritual hierarchy that assists you there, then the spiritual hierarchy that assists you in marifat. If we were to look at this, as it relates to the cosmos, and we were to place these expressions on the manifest, we would say that there are 12 that governs. Because this would be 3, on the manifest, expressions of the triune law, by 4 pillars. So when we get into the spiritual hierarchy of the world, at any given moment, it actually deals with the quadratic expression that is stabilized by the 4 pillars, yet it revolves around one central axis. That's the 7. That's you. The 4 pillars represent the 4 gateways. And you being able to move from the center throughout the outer bounds in any direction that you will. That's why we are told in the Grand Quran, Allah is the Lord of the 2 east and the 2 west. If it's 2 east, 2 west, then we're dealing with a root of 4. In essence. So the Qutb, or what is known as the axis mundi, or the pole, the center around which all of this activity is rotating. It's just like the process of the Dendra wheel, or what some people like to call the zodiac. There's a process that deals with a changing of the guard, rotation, or Rotarian complexion, as the Prophet would refer to its movement. So the Qutb is again point of the center, which represents the one. And this is why you will see Allah, beneath the 7, because Allah represent the oneness of the 7. And we know about that when we go into our Moorish Holy Quran. So at the absolute center, again, is the spiritual axis of the age. And this is what we have to master. This is, where we have to come into a consciousness of our reality. This one brother or sister, when you are chosen, you become the heart through which divine command flows in creation. So there would be no disharmony between you and your spouse. There would only be unity between the two of you if you are the heart through which divine command flows into creation. Hidden, often unknown, even to oneself at first. Before you can find one outside of you, you have to find yourself first. Or you're going to be lost. How many of us find ourselves in situations, with ones that we thought we were supposed to be united with, and that wasn't the case? And sometimes we have maybe almost or did lose ourselves and had to find ourselves again. So once you are able to find yourself, you represent hakikat in the embodied form. Holy matrimony, Moorish Holy Temple of Science, Marifa, hakikat, tariqat, and Sharia. So again, the Katab represents the center point, and the element that's expressed is ether. 7 represent the ether. 7 ethers are the 7 planes that both you, God man, and God woman, have been given dominion to govern. You will be either the generator, operator, and destroyer, or you will move according to the grantor of dominion. Both of them words acronymically express God. You see? And then you become the grantor of dominion. Brother, grantor of dominion. Sister, grant your brother dominion, sister, to be able to govern you in love. Grant your sister, brother, the dominion to be able to govern in love. You see? Direction beyond direction. So when you become, so in tune to where you don't need no more direction and guidance, because you have become the truth, this is a powerful measure. In the teaching of Tasawwuf, there's a principle that actually states if the Katab were removed, the world would collapse. So if you have lost your center, brother, then your whole universe collapses. If you are detached or removed as being your center, sister, then your whole universe, is destroyed. It will collapse. There will be no success. So you have to be grounded. There's another measure as it relates to moving from the center to the outer bound when I was talking about the 4 pillars, which are known as the Autad in the Arabiya, and that's AWTAD, are the 4 pegs, and it represents the number 4. And their position represents, again, the cardinal points around the Katab. And they are the stabilizers of your world. So remember, there are hierarchies in each quadrant. And these hierarchies are the stabilizers of your world. When you master the law, when you master the way, when you become the truth, when you become the reality, this is your stability. When you move outside of that, again, there's chaos. So, these pillars or pegs represent the anchors of your divine order in space. They are the anchors of your celestial ship, your celestial relationship as it relates to divinity. And the golden cords of love are connected to that anchor. Each governs direction and elements. East, south, west, and north. Air, fire, water, and earth. Breath, intellect, will, power, mercy and emotion, stability and law. In all directions. So when we deal with the spiritual station, of tariqat into marifat as a relation, squaring around the point, we find that it is stated that they fix the world as the tent pegs fix a pavilion. This is where we saw the fix. So just like pegs hold, a tent in its proper position, this is the same way the pegs of the universe, hold you within your proper position. You see? So now that we have the 7 and we have the 4 quadrants again, we understand then who the Abdal is. We can even connect this to Abdul, being of service. Abdal means the substitute. It also means the 7, or the circle 7 tradition, the number 7, the Abdal. You know, this represents what is called the circumferential ring. You know, and the purpose of the 7 and being the 7 is to maintain balance among nation and people. You know, when one dies, so to speak, another is immediately substituted. You know, and operate invisibly among humanity, agents of divine mercy. You see, spiritual station, you know, is dealing with where the Shariat is perfected through service. And the symbol is the outer circle. You see? So why is these measures that we deal with called quadratic? 1 plus 4, you know, meaning kata plus autad equals the axis or stability. That's also 5 as well. You know, 7 equals the completion of the governed cycle. We can look at the 7, you know, hierarchy or Elohim as they relate to the 4 and the 1, and we can actually see the concept of, you know, scimitar and star if we were looking at it from a Big Dipper degree, rotating around the North Star. 7, you know, hierarchy representing the 7 stars, and the 1 that is actually the North Star that they are rotating around. But 1, 4, and 7 equals what? 7 plus 4 is what? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And 1 more is 12. So this represents complete rulership and governance. When we deal with the concept of the 7 or the Abdal, the Kutub again, and then we deal with the Autad, which are the 4 expressions or pillars of creation. So you see the symbolism in all of this. Square plus the circle evens equals heaven fixed upon the earth. So this forms what is called a squared circle. So the degrees between the square and the circle are the same. The ancient emblem or expression of divine order is what we get out of this. This is all dealing with esoteric geometry, family. You see what I'm saying? The point, which is the truth, hakikat, tarikat being the discipline or the pathway or square, and then the circle, which is actually expressed through the compass, the chariot manifested in the world. We use the compass to draw a circle around our passions and desires and keep them within the bounds of righteousness. That's a symbolic expression of the compass or the God man. You know, and the God woman is also demonstrating at that level. So yeah, we dealing with, you know, Shariat, Tarikat, Marifat, Hakikat, active mercy, spiritual discipline, inner knowing, and unity. In order for a brother and a sister to communicate effectively, they got to have some active mercy. So it's the law that teach one that. In order for ones to be able to be conquerors of anything that may come to them, as adepts, they got to have some spiritual discipline. You know, they got to have inner knowing, a sense of reality of knowing, you know, when one needs recharging, so to speak. When one is out of touch, communication is key. Hakikat, again, you know, that unity. You know, so again, why do we deal with this circle 7? You know, we master the 7 heavens within the self, the 7 earths. In 7 days, 7 circuits are what we call tawaf. Like one make that pilgrimage and make them 7 circuits around the Kaaba. You know, in the Abdal, you know, our mystic, a master, 7th of the time is the one that completes the cycle. So in this circle 7 expression come the governance of time and space. And the key maxim of this expression is that the Kutub is 1. Again, Autad makes 1 firm, those pillars, and Abdal makes 1 manifest. So the 1 being the axis through deific will, being firm through those 4 quadrants of the wisdom that we given. You know, and Abdal making one manifest. This is the true expression of what we call a Moorish holy temple of science. Or, you know, a mastermind. So, you know, all of this goes back to sacred geometry. You know, it also goes into the concept of what we call the throne and arsh. One of the prophets say he was going to take, you know, his good Moors up above the sun, moon, and stars around the almighty throne of Allah. You know, our prophet did a lot of things for the good Moors. We need to look at them good Moor prophecies. Because every time he talked about the good Moor, it was talking about something that was good. It ain't strange that, you know, one of the main degrees of the Grand Quran is being a doer of good, a muhsin, muhsinun. You know, one goes from Muslim to mu'minun to muhsinun, muhsin, mushin. You know, so one moves from the level of what we call kursi to the arsh of Allah, and Allah rose above his arsh. Istawa, he rose. So he has a footstool, he has a throne, and he elevated above the throne. So when the prophet said he was going to take us up above the sun, moon, and stars around the almighty throne of Allah, go back to the chakra, go back to the journey that we came up from the base of the spine, because we know the heart chakra is often seen as a sun and moon united, inverted moon, crescent, and a sun in the center, which is also a headdress that is utilized in ancient Kemet for the God man and God woman. Co-regency, man and woman ruling, utilizing the same headdress. So the footstool or the kursi actually represent Allah's knowledge, you know, that pervades and permeates throughout that which is what we call beneath the rate of the atmosphere and just above it. But arsh represent that which is outside, meaning he exists outside of his knowledge. And then he is elevated beyond the existence outside of his knowledge. Kursi, arsh, istawa. It's just like a flame. You see that blue part of the flame, then it become orange, and you raise your hand a little above it. You don't see it, but that's where it's hottest at. You feel the reality of that heat. Yeah, that's just like a flame. 3 levels of that demonstration. You know, so yeah, these are powerful measures, Moorish Ken. When we come into the grand insight of what it is to express in these special measures. You know, and once one comes into this knowledge, you know, and understand it from a Moorish perspective, you know, your Qutb represents your supreme grand sheikh that is within you, the hidden king. You know, the Autad of the 4 gates represent the gates of the capital empire and dominion of yourself. Remember, the grantor of dominion is the great God. So who is it that granted you dominion over yourself after coming through all the hellacious conditions you come through to get into the heights of your divinity? The Abdal represent the 7 protectors, the Elohim, you know, the mastermind that embody themselves, sages of the ages, all of it coming through you, mastermind throughout the climbing time. The protectors of the realm. And the circle 7 represent the 7 seals of authority that have been given to you from a divine expression. So there's a lot of geometry here, you know. So these are powerful demonstration, Moorish King. So we just say gratitude, understanding the full expression of a true governance and a divine government. You know, these are our degrees of what we call, you know, tasawwuf. You know, this is what we refer to as the path of Sibagatala. You know, so we give praises to the great God Allah that we got a holy prophet, you know, and that he is the one that has elevated us in our consciousness, you know, and so we say gratitude with a divine attitude. And at this particular time, you know, we are going into, you know, opening up the floor. Happy Holy Week to our Holy Prophet, and happy Holy Manifestation Day to our Holy Prophet as well. Islamism without the schism. All right, *6 your phone, more. Remember, our subject title is dealing with the duty of a husbandman and the matrimonial Hajj of the Egyptian adept master. We just say duty of the husbandman, though. *6 your phone, more. Can anybody hear me? I know the faithful will be on in a minute. Well, I guess nobody hear me. Can anybody hear me?
Islam?
Islam, brother, we're gonna let you speak, but I'm trying to see if anybody hear me. Oh, so y'all hear me? Okay. I just wanted to make sure. You know, I thought something wrong with my phone. All right, go ahead, brother Miles Bay.
Gratitude, God, man. All praises be to the great God Allah. Honor to his holy prophet, Noah Drew Ali. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Once again, I rise and I give praise to the almighty great God Allah. I give the highest honors to his holy prophet, our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. His high name, Sheikh El Sharif Drew Ali. I give high honors to the greatest forerunner ever, Marcus, Mosaic Garvey L. I give high honors to our theocratic Moorish American government. I give honors to Act 1, our divine constitution, bylaws, our government officials, staff, and citizens. And I also give honors to this grand Moorish perspective tonight and our host, our National Grand Sheikh, Prime Minister Dr. Shadu Amiti Amohedjit Shepsuel. And I also give honors to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, our Moorish flag, Grand Emblem, Grand Seal, everything that is Moorish. I'm a Moorish king that spoke before me, and I'm a Moorish king that will speak out. Shalom, 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 family. Happy Moorish Holy Week, and happy Prophet Noble Drew Ali Manifestation Week too also. And grand class today, God, man. And for your topic on the floor, the duty of a husband and mate, subhanAllah, I don't know how to pronounce that word, Hajj of an Egyptian adept master. And basically, God, man, you know, grand class, and just here to support, you know, theocratic Moorish American government. I want to say praise Allah, honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. But the main thing that I got out of this demonstration, God, man, is you basically let one know that one needs to basically find themselves and you know, take what the holy prophet brought and go into oneself and meditate, sit still, and basically be who one is supposed to be, because the time is now for one to basically do the will of the great God Allah and stand on the things that our holy prophet brought, because we all know that there is no God but the great God Allah, and our holy prophet Noble Drew Ali is basically leading us in the direction. Gratitude for letting me speak, God, man. Islam.
Gratitude for the measure. And yeah, before we can come into the unity with anybody else, yeah, we got to master self. You know, and this is why the prophet used that term Moorish Holy Temple of Science, because he told us to study self. And if the temple of science, the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, is reference to the self, as I, you know, pointed it out here, then that is the temple that we should be studying in to master the self, the temple of science, of self mastery. Islam. Gratitude, Consul General. All right, is there any other more who would like to come forth? Islam, brother.
National Grand Six outside for the great class night. Honor to all of those who assist on the class and honor for the entire at one. As always, special honor to our National Grand Six, who's our host tonight. Our national power to make law and force law, excuse me, with the assistance of the prophet and the grand body of Morris America. And honor to our national assistant Grand Chief, because the assistant Grand Chief is the assistant Grand Chief in all affairs who is supported the law, safety, freedom, and justice, and is known before the citizen of Morris America. Well, you know, Prophet did say, I brought you everything that takes to save the nation. Now, taking to save thyself, he said, if I can get you to thinking, you'll save yourself. And you know, sir, the subject matter is due to her husband. And when I was looking at this, I was just taking deep breath, and I'm just trying to understand a little bit more, because, you know, the due to the husband, it said this chapter is to be read first to the husband by an ordained minister of the Moorish American government during all marriage obligation ceremonies. The supreme laws of the prophet are now being enforced throughout our land. Well, you know, the thing, what I was looking at, National Grand Chief, you know, you first got to, once you get these laws and lessons, you got to work on fixing yourself. And there's many things that need to be cleaned up above the neck. Is, you know, and, you know, when you were speaking, I was looking at it, you know, keeping up I was looking at it from this understanding that, you know, there's many things that you have to work on when you are talking about taking on a wife. And you know, I looked at, I had 60, here's the mystery of thy house, treat her therefore with respect, that thy servant may obey her. And when I'm saying servant, it ain't just talking about servant, how we talking about even the children, and I mean, even when you're out in public with your wife, I mean, you have to treat her with respect, because if not, no one else is gonna respect her. The children won't respect her. And you know, then you're out of law. You're not obeying the holy divine law. You can't teach anyone anything if you haven't got a clear understanding of the law. If you haven't been listening to the prophet, listening to Allah, the great God of the universe, the one that made you, how can you teach somebody else something when you ain't right with the laws yourself? So, you know, I understand it takes work, and this I do know. It takes work, but it takes divine work where you have to be faithful. Because they tell you that with divine constitution, I agree, the love, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all citizens of Moorish America. No citizen put in danger, accused false to his brother or sister on any occasion that may harm his brother or sister for Allah's love. And if there any type of dispute, then you to do that with yourself according to the law. Not out with anger and violence and unclean words and things of that nature. So, you have to fix self first. Who made you? Allah, the great God of the universe. And in this place you found is within the heart. And we know all the powers above the neck, where everything is sort of left. It's above the neck. These are just some of the things that you have to make sure that it's fixed before you talking about taking on a wife. Because you have to be right first. You got to be right with Allah, the great God of the universe, and the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And to be any kind of leader, you got to know who made you and practice what you preach. You know, and listen to you declare. There's no way that anything will work out, because this has been demonstrated, sir, by many Moors here. There's been many marriages here in the Moorish American government. Because they didn't get the holy and divine laws, and they didn't listen to what the prophet said, they didn't fix themselves. Because the power is above the neck, not below the neck. And you can't lead anyone to do anything on passion and emotion. This all have been taught here, just like the class has been taught tonight. Here, some talking about these laws and lessons of the duty of a husband. So you have to be true and divine with yourself, with Allah, the great God of the universe, and the holy prophet Noble Drew Ali, and yourself. That's why the prophet say, fix self. That's why I brought you everything it takes to save a nation. I take it to save that self. You can't save anything, not even a marriage, or do anything for a marriage if you don't take these laws and lessons and put them sincerely down on your down plate, above your neck, and let them stay there and practice them. Because again, it tells you that proclaim and practice. And then in Act 4, it's all citizens, and I'm going to go say all citizens must preserve the holy and divine laws, and all citizens must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of this government and must live the life according. You got ownership here. And no official like yourself, the chairman, assistant grand chief, and other official is going to tolerate your behavior. It's all clear here in our divine constitution, all clear in our subject matter tonight, the duty of a husband. And especially if you're official in this government, you have a responsibility. And as the chairman has said, don't act like it, be it. Be love. Because see, it's in the nature of stuff to be God. Learn to steer your thoughts and be yourself God. Islam and peace and honor to you for the great class tonight.
And Islam to you as well, Justice. We give honors to you for, the drawing as it relates to emphasizing the aspect of our people fixing themselves first and foremost before they do anything else. And that's what we're talking about. That's why we didn't go deep into the chapter itself, because we want to talk about the Hajj that take place before the Hajj. Islam? Well, all right. The floor is still open, Morris Ken.
Islam. Arise, giving praise to Allah, great God of the universe, giving honor to our prophet, Nabi Ali, and I'm celebrating this holy week, prophet Nabi Ali. I have just a short measure. The gifts and understanding that the treasure of Allah, and every living thing is bound by cord by every other living thing, meaning that there's a matrimony marriage, whole universe. So understanding just the laws of the universe should understand that there's a relationship by every living thing is bound by cord by every other living thing. And the simple, the National Grand Sheikh went in depth with it. Me, myself, I try to keep things simple. To understand, the Holy Quran, certain 7, and I just keep it in like a twofold, meaning there's like today a positive and a negative. But when it says that every living thing is bound by cord by every other living thing, then that tells me that there is a relationship with everything in the universe to a oneness. Because as many of you have stated, who made you? Allah. So Allah created everything. And working on ourselves, if we believe, have faith and fruition, and apply this is especially a thing, and knowing that our walk should be strong in our commitment to what we agree upon bars, uplifting all of humanity, uplifting ourselves. With that, there's one piece of gratitude.
Islam. And we give honors to you, brother. In the measure, when we come forth to demonstrate, we always come forth from what we call a 5D model of thinking. you know, and that goes into degrees that go beyond what we can see with the carnal eyes, so to speak, what's measured by width and depths and so forth and so on. And we get into analogical reasoning, you know, and application, applicable knowledge. Ijma and Qiyas is what they call it in the Arabic. You know, knowledge means to know and know means to apply. So what we are teaching, you know, is how to apply, you know, these special laws as they are above in the macrocosm, below here on the manifest. Because if we rotate accordingly, you know, in union, as everything is united, then how can we go wrong? So we just say gratitude, brother. We give honors to you for that measure. Praise be to Allah. Well, all right. Is there any other more who would like to come forth? Islam.
To Allah, honors to the Prophet, honors to our theocratic government, our world council, our flag, seal, emblem, our divine constitution, our swift angels, my chief citizens alike, honors to all the Moors that spoke before me, all the ones that will speak after, and honors to you for this class. So when I started getting into this, you know, more science, and the further I got in, took me down this journey where when it says that, you know, they give you their attributes of El Bay, and one's the masculine, and technically speaking, one's the feminine. And that doesn't mean like we're not talking about genders. But it's the left and right side of the brain hemisphere. And so most people go with the dominant part, the dominant hand. Typically agrees, I believe that's that's the side of the brain that they think with. Or it might be the opposite, however it goes. And so when you talk about the matrimonial Hajj, it's using the full circumference of your left and right brain hemisphere. And when you raise that Kundalini up and it goes into, that's what is being activated from what I've seen. And there's breathing techniques that you can do to stimulate the synchronicity between the left and the right hemisphere brain. It's one of is the holding the finger over one nostril and breathing in through the nose and then letting it out through the mouth and then breathing in through the and you just alternate, and then it's a process that you use to synchronize both of them. And that's also when you talk about the Arabiya, well, the prayer is I'm gonna say our international prayer. Our international prayer is that synchronicity, is uniting the divinity with the matter, because you are not only reciting, remembering, you're activating the thinking on both, but you're also doing yoga poses. So in that doing our international prayer, you are synchronizing both sides of the brain. That's why a lot of times when you come out of there, you feel like you're in a trance, or even while you're in it, you feel like you're in a transient state. This is also one of the reasons why when we holding of the breath is another thing that can synchronize both hemispheres of the brain. And so when you talk about a person being able to not just calculate but apply, those are two separate. You use two different parts of the brain, but then when you doing that, when you're going through situations and able to keep the calmness, even if you're in a high stress situation, and you're able to keep the calmness, you are in
in that matrimony. And so imagine when you got two people that are using both hemispheres of their brain and are focusing on the outcome, on a suggested outcome. It enhances the probability of the manifestation of whatever they're focused on. Hence the reason why when we say at this time Moors need to focus on the build-up of Moorish America. If we synchronize our clock and our thought pattern, it'll shoot up everything. It would accelerate the manifestation. We done did this with the and honors to the Grand Sheik, the past Grand Sheik, because when we did the breathing thing and everybody did it, well, that brought healing vibes. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we talk about in synchronizing. We're not just as individuals, but we're we are the micro and the macrocosm, and our unity is what propels us, or it destroys us. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I get out of the matrimony odds. It's just not between a man and a woman, but it goes cosmically into us being one, even having one name, one free national name. All this is a part of us being a part of the holy matrimony. You know what I'm saying? And it's a deep thought that you brought. And I got to email you for those documents as well. And peace and love. Got to.
Islam and gratitude, brother. You know, that's what we talk about, the matrimonial Hajj before the matrimonial Hajj. You know, in other words, that journey within, you know, before the outward expression, you know, of two coming together. So we are actually giving one preparatory degrees and letting one know what we're supposed to be demonstrating at. And yes, that has to do a lot with the hemisphere of our thinking, more so all in the spirit expression of it, you know, than the physical aspect of it. You know, so that's a grand measure. You know, we get into the physical, then we go to talking about healing the body and all that type of demonstration, you know, from physical ailments and everything. It's a Hajj that have to take place within to do that too. But is there any other more who would like to come forth and exercise their fire? The floor is still open. Islam, sister.
Yes, I'm going to praise the great God of Allah. I'm the Noble Drew Ali, official citizens, Moors here, there, and everywhere, especially my Moors kin. The matrimonial Hajj, I may be completely wrong about it, but to me, the matrimonial Hajj, the Hajj is terminology is usually referred to when you make your pilgrimage in Mecca, at least once in your lifetime while you're in the flesh. This pilgrimage, the matrimonial Hajj, is a bit different because you're going to a holy place with Allah, and it's one other person that you are uniting and becoming one with, your spouse. And that matrimonial Hajj, we don't believe in divorce. So you only have the one matrimonial Hajj where you make that commitment, a lifetime commitment. And some people don't understand lifetime commitments. We don't support the separation and the divorce of the family structure. So when you make that Hajj and you and your spouse become one with Allah, you only make that Hajj at one time, and you do that sincerely because you're going to spend the rest of your life with that person. You, Allah, and your spouse become one. in this union of divinity. You know the time is limited, so I'm going to stand out. Gratitude.
That's a powerful measure you just gave, Sister Cammy. You know, very powerful and swift with the scimitar. You know, because like you said, you know, once in a lifetime, we definitely have to make this hard. Not even dealing with the manifest between two. And the thing is about it, you can't even sever a deific tie of Allah if you wanted to. You can't sever the will of Allah. You know, so that's why we say, like you said, ain't no divorce laws being demonstrated up here. You know, ain't no prenuptial agreements or none of that got to be demonstrated. You know, you can't, I wouldn't try to break a deific tie. You know, why would one use a scimitar, you know, to sever, you know, a deific will? In other words, you have to go against your own consciousness. Goodness gracious. That ain't possible either. It ain't possible for an angel to disobey the will of Allah. I wish a member would. That's a grand drawing. Y'all heard the sister. Well, all right. We're going to open up the floor for one more, and then we're going to go ahead and go to our officials. Islam, is there any other more who would like to? Islam, that's another God. That's Sister Saket. Oh, yeah, we hear you loud and clear with divine ears.
God Allah, to give honor to our holy and divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, also known as El Haj Sharif Abdul Ali. Exhale and emblem. I give honor to Act One, yourself, Grand Sheik, for this grand Moorish perspective tonight. I give honors to everything Moorish, honors for honors are due. And I give honors to our new Moors on the line. Welcome home once again. I give honor to this holy week. Islam. This is a grand class, the duty of a husbandman, a matrimonial Hajj of the Egyptian Adept Master. I took a few notes, and I love how your demonstration, which you shared on the screen, that says in both the Hajj and the Umrah, the pilgrims are required to walk 7 times around the Kaaba and 7 times between the hilltops of Safa and Marwa. And that reminded me, of course, of, and I believe you said so, of our obligation ceremony, how we walk 7 times around the Kaaba. And it's a beautiful ceremony. It's so spiritual, even to the ones that are observing the ceremony. So many key nuggets. And, you know, when you were talking about the chakras, the 7 eyes of Allah, and, you know, relating to the chakras starting with the root, it made me think about how ones have to have balance. We have to balance those chakras. We have to tune them up, because one may have too much of something, one may have too little, and one may be without something or need something, get those tools and just balance things out in our lives, in our minds, in our bodies, in our spirit. When you read out of our creation and fall of man, that was also very powerful, and stating that, so Allah, the husbandman of everything that is, drew forth this human seed into the soil of soul. It grew apace, and man became a living soul. and he became the Lord of all the kingdoms of the soul. And when we go within and study self, balance those chakras, then we are able to enter into a marriage, into a relationship with one. And so many times, and a very high percentage of times, someone get married or have an obligation for the wrong reason. One don't study self, one they see someone else getting married, they want to get married. It may be about the beauty of a diamond ring. The one may want companionship, and one may not know anything about love, about divine love especially. We have to have divine love when we enter into a marriage, because there are things that may not be so pretty within that relationship that you have to deal with. And we have to have unconditional love. We have to be able to communicate, just like it was said in our chapter about the first ayah, taken to thy first wife and obey the ordinance of Allah, taken to thyself a wife and become a faithful member of society. One cannot function in society unless in tune with himself, with the great God Allah. That there can be a great dysfunction because society can be cruel. We have to know how to handle, go within and handle the things that go on outside of self, so to say. And I like ayat 2 as well. It says, but examine with care and fix not suddenly on thy present choice depends thy future happiness. So if we don't go within, it's not going to happen overnight. We can't just make a quick fix of the phones that we have. We have to study. We have to study again. And whatever the fix may be, it's not usually a quick fix. We have to get rid of some things, and we may have to bring some things in, as I said before. What else do I have here? Pardon self. The creation and fall of man that you brought forth, that you read about the human seed that came forth from the heart of Allah, was full ordained to be Lord of the plane of soul. We can't be lords over anything until we do grow apace. And, it all boils down to us going within and studying ourselves. And as you said, a husbandman has to liberate the goddess. And as we see here, the husbandman is Allah. And he has to do everything within ourselves. We have to allow him, and we have to know that he is omnipotent. He's everywhere. He's all-knowing. And we have to consult him. We have to put our Moorish prayer out there and depend on him. And our theocratic government and these conference calls and these teachers have a big part in how we grow. And last but what you said just really resonated in me when you said the heart knows what the tongue can't explain. And that is so true. Sometimes we can't speak of what we feel, but the heart knows what we feel. And we have to follow the heart sometimes, most of the time, even if we can't communicate or speak or even know what's going on. Islam, peace and love, family. Gratitude for allowing me to speak. Blessed and holy day.
Islamism, a conflict that can't be told in words. You give honors to you, goddess. You know, and you reminded me of a measure I had on the soul plane when I was getting ready to go into the heights of meeting the Hierophant. And there was a vision of me going down into the subterranean vaults beneath the pyramids. And there was this goddess, and she was bound with chains, beautiful goddess. And she was surrounded by flames, and there were serpents, like 7 of them, within the flames. So she was, you know, inside of this particular measure. So you can only imagine these cobras or vipers being agitated by the flame, you know, and this goddess being entrapped there and in chains, and they actually were striking her, and they were striking at her intuition, meaning her head, you know, and I was taken in that chamber to witness this, you know, but the key was, how could I rescue her from that when the flames were so high and intense? You see what I'm saying? Standing in the outer circle of it. You know, one had to become the God man, you know, once we come into it, knowing that that was really Queen of Sheba, the 7, you know, as we call it, Queen of the 7, and one had to liberate her from that. The flames were symbolic to the passions that was raging on, you know, which was somewhat like a hellfire degree. So one actually had to go through hell in order to bring that God woman up out of that condition. And that's what we talking about with the God man, you know, the husbandman. So gratitude. We heard a brother trying to speak, and he gonna be the last one that we'll let in, since he came in right when Saket was speaking. Who was that brother? Okay, that was you, Marvin Edwards Bay? Okay, Islam. Okay.
Given. And this is a very powerful class, very uplifting class. And, you know, when we talk about duty of a husband man, that matrimonial hard, the anti master. Man, I was going along with you as you were, you know, demonstrating, and you know, I could see the whole measure clearly. You know, as I think about, you know, brother had, you know, I had a conversation with a brother, and he was asking me about, you know, did I want a goddess? And I hadn't really thought about it at that time because I was so busy trying to think about, you know, purifying my heart and mind and uplifting myself, you know, being in tune with the great God Allah, you know, but it created a thought in me. I said, well, yeah, you know, I could ask, you know, but it made me realize that I had a lot of work to do, you know, because in order for me to even consider, say, being in a marriage tie with the goddess, that I had to be on point, you know, on all aspects, you know. So that's what my focus was. And as you were bringing it on, and I was taking some notes. You said man must be in union with the law of Allah. You know, and this is how I'm saying it. I'm getting so in tune, I'm so focused on where I am along the way. You know, and that's my goal. And it's a beautiful thing because as I continue to correct, you know, things in my character, building character, and everything is coming, into to aid and assist in that. Like this class tonight, it brought on much more than what meets the eye when it talks about duty of a husband, man. Praise the Lord for sending us a prophet, for bringing these lessons to us, and I'm grateful that I'm allowed to be a part of this divine and national movement, to be a part of correcting myself. Well, that's what it's all about. As I've said before, when I was a young man, a child even, I thought just came to me. What if it was just me and the great God? Everything else was an illusion. And it almost, has been revealed to me, because when I'm in tune with the great God, that's all it is. And he, is in all of us. That's the unity about it. But each more has to grow within his own self, because, well, anyway, so, there was so much to be said, and I know at the time I just was accepting that maybe it wasn't my time tonight to speak. But praise the Lord for his love, and like I said, he said so much, the more so the temple of flying through heaven, so that's what it's all about, you know what I mean? And it's kind of like, it reminded me of the class I had concerning Adam and Eve, talking about the God woman, God, the God man, God, and so when we come in, and I know that when Allah, grants me that guidance, then I would, be with the goddess. And if my mission here on earth this time around may not be that, but praise Allah, as long as I can please the great God Allah and be myself, and be an aid and assist in this Morris American government, all is well. So gratitude, God, man. Very powerful class, and very enlightening. Because that enlightening is what will be with us. Gratitude for allowing me to speak. Islam and peace.
Islam, brother. Gratitude for the measure. Well, all right. Now is the time, Moors, that we go to the officials. I want to give honors to all of you who have given your measures. Praise be to Allah for the ones who were able to speak and the ones who had intention to speak but weren't able to speak. We still heard you. So at this time, we're going to call forth our sister Dendra Nia Curtis Bay, Assistant Grand National Secretary of the State. Are you there, Goddess and Queen?
Islam, close as a love talk. Islam. Islam, family. I am the National Assistant Grand Secretary of State, Dr. Dendra Nia Curtis Bay. First, let me rise and give praises to our great God Allah. I give honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I give honors to Act One. I give honors to all my government officials. I give honors to our holy prophet, Manifestation Day, and blessed Holy Week, family. And I give honors to our National Grand Chief Emeritus. You can just feel his presence here. And Dr. Shaheed, I tell you, as always, I was so excited about this class and was anxious to get in there. And like the God man said, you was coming from chapter 44, the duties of a husbandman, but you, man, that was so powerful how you went back to chapter 1 and you talked about the duty of the chapter 44 is the duty of a husband, but you talked about the duty of a husbandman and the matrimonial heart of the Egyptian at their masters. And I tell you, that was so powerful. And I can remember when we last year when we went over that, that particular chapter, I tell you, God, man, you took me to another level in dealing with the marriage and talking about the heart, and which is a pilgrimage that one takes within. It's not. It's yes, it's an outside thing that one do too, but it's mainly coming from the inside. And we as Moorish Americans, we as gods and goddesses have to go within ourselves. And I loved it how you expressed how we have to find our Garden of Eden within ourselves. It ain't about nobody else. It's about us. And you're basically showing us how to be the gods and goddesses that Allah created us to be. And I loved it when you talked about how the Hajj also deals with purification, the purification period, and how this is a lot of times it's taught. You do it on a yearly basis, but you also brought it down to how we are to deal with this on a daily basis. And oh man, Dr. Shaheed, you went and you brought so many great measures. My mind just went in so many different ways, and I loved it when you talked about the chakras, how you started from that root chakra, going to that crown chakra, and I just loved it how when you talked about how the God man, how when he go within himself, starting from that root chakra, from that lower chakra, and go off, you deal with each chakra. And our Moorish kin talked about that. You deal with each chakra, and you go up to that crown chakra within yourself, and then you got the goddess. She's over there doing the same thing, and you giving us the journey within before we join together with somebody. That is so important to know what we need in this day and time. We need this. We need these teachings. I'm definitely gonna share this on my Facebook page and everything, and how the goddess go within herself and study herself and come to the crown chakra, come to her crown chakra, and it's no wonder. It's destiny for you to meet that God man that's out there for you, because both of you have done the work before you come together. How can somebody come between them when you have done the work first, when you have gotten the teachings first? And that's what it's all about, family. Dr. Shaheed, I tell you, it brings me to tears, because I see how much work that we have to do, how much work that I have to do to share with my Moorish kin these teachings of our holy prophet, and especially in these days and times. And also, last but not least, you started from dealing with Ish and Isha. And I tell you, family, I encourage each and every one of you, especially our new Moors, please go back and listen to these playbacks. When you get on these calls, listen to the playback, because it be so much powerful measures coming. You can't get it all at one time. I know I had to stop writing, but praise the great God Allah, we got our playback. Listen to the playbacks and just sit there and meditate on it. And so, gratitude, National Grand Sheik, for calling me folks. I tell you, this was a powerful measure. Islam, gratitude, peace and love.
And gratitude and peace and love, sister. The Grand Quran talk about how when one speaking the similitudes of Allah and one hears the truth, and it brings tears of joy to the eyes of one saying, I knew this. This is something that I heard before. And that's the degree, when it comes to the truth, and we be right there with you. Sometime when we get a lesson, we have some trinklets of the tears coming down our cheeks. You may not know it, but we teach on them degrees a lot of time, but Allah's lead on the victory ship. We love our people and we want our people to see the oneness of all. So at this time, giving honors to, that measure of our sister, let us call forth our national Grand Mufti, Dr. Kanchu Mark Heru Bey. Islam, you there, Grand Man? Islamism without the schism.
Worthy of those things, great God of the universe, our Father God, Allah. And we give the highest honors that we can give to his prophet. Our prophet, the last prophet in these days and in these times. Prophet Double Drew Ali, Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, the savior of humanity. We give honors to his forerunner, Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And we give honor to his government, our government, the Moorish American government, the government in which we live. We give honors to the officials of this said government, our divine ministers and our swift angels, our mufti, our royal council, our secretaries, our citizens, the Moorish Americans. We give honors to our flag and our divine constitution and bylaws, our Holy Quran, our Grand National Seal, our Grand National Emblem, our Book of Fire, the Exhument of a Nation. We give honors to everything that is Moorish. We give a special honors to you, National Grand Sheikh, Dr. Shadula Minty Ahmedu Shep Suel, for bringing forth this grand Moorish perspective this evening. We give honors to all of our Moorish kin who have spoken before us and to our Moorish kin that will speak after us. We give honors to you, angels. We continue to give the honors where they're due and honoring all true and divine prophets. And we give honors to our ancestors. They came before us leading the way. And we are them today without doubt or contradiction. Because no one has the power to change man from his nature. Praise Allah for that. We're going to keep screaming that, because that's the truth of the matter that it's been a grand class, and I think that as I was listening to the class and thinking about how you set it out, it also reminded me of how, we are the husband to our nation as a citizen, officials and government officials, and we are the husband to our nation and the husband man. We're here to take care of our nation as far as she is the land and the water, our land, the air, the water, the law. We're here to take care of and preserve. We want to get something out of our nation. If we want the blessings that come with being the protectors of the nation, because the only ones protected is us, the citizens. It's our responsibility to protect our nation, to invest in our nation, to see it become prosperous. And that's the husbandman, the husbandry, in which we share responsibility, man and woman, God and goddess, when it comes to our nation. And we got to definitely, as we said, go first within and look at what's the importance of taking upon ourselves a wife, or taking upon ourselves a nation in which we are responsible for. And obeying the ordinance of Allah, making sure that we are tied into the families of nations. And it means, that's where the marriage bond comes in. One family sharing with another family one of their prized possessions, their children, their family members, and saying with these bonds, we going to consider each other family, so we don't get to war with each other, so we don't get to leaving each other out in the cold when the family, but then we look out for each other. You know, that's where this husbandry comes in, and very important as far as how we look at, you know, our duty and our responsibility to not only take care of what we care for, but to make sure that the legacy is left. That the things that we've done in our lifetime, we prepare, you know, our wife and children, or our nation, and the offspring of that, as which may be, you might consider your organizations, that we left them in a state where they're able to continue on what we started out with. It's very important that we stick in line with what Allah has brought for us in divinity, because that's what's going to keep the livelihood of our nation going. As we the citizens, we the officials, husband to the nation. So gratitude for this grand drawing. I just, you know, was looking at it at that point of view as you was bringing it forth. And just a grand drawing. So gratitude for the class, National Grand Sheik, and gratitude to you, Moorish America, for being here with us, giving us your time, attention, respect. We love you. Islam and peace.
Islam and peace to you as well, National Grand Mufti. We give honors to you for that grand drawing. Praise be to Allah. Islamism without schism. Well, let us call forth our Grand National Secretary of the State, Sister Hatshepsut Rakat Ma'at Anpu Tutankhamen Bey. Islam, you there, Goddess and Queen? This.
Ali, the last prophet in these days and times, giving honor to our Moorish American government, to all of our officials, staff, the angels, muftis, divine ministers, most especially our Moorish kin. Giving honor to all those Moors that spoke before me, all those Moors that will speak after me. Giving a special honor to our National Assistant Grand Sheik of Moorish America, doing our meeting according to law. Also to our Consul General of Texas, Dr. Marvin Edwards Bey, for taking registration and reading our subject chapter for the week. We want to give honor to Moorish Holy Week, to this special class. We want to give honor to Act One, and also to our family online. New Moors coming through the door, welcome. And we want to give a special honor to our host instructor, our National Grand Sheik of Moorish America, Dr. Shadow Amenti El Mohammed. This evening, subject matter being duty of a husbandman, the duty of a husbandman and matrimonial Hajj of the Egyptian Adat Master. And I'll tell you, there were so many keys that you brought forth, Dr. Shahid, and looking at it from the aspect of Ish and Isha, you know, taking it back to the God state, and recognizing the fact that as we get these particular lessons, and it was such a powerful degree. First of all, thank you for going through the dictionary of the Holy Quran and looking up the word Hajj, and also the exegesis of the Holy Quran, bring forth further enlightenment. And there's such a powerful demonstration in reference to making sure that we demonstrate that matrimonial Hajj within ourselves, preparing the way and building the temple of perfected man within ourselves. And, you know, it just reflected me back to a thought that we had in reference to, we recognize the fact that Allah binds two souls, or two hearts, and makes them one. And so this is why, as you coming up and ready to take your place in the affairs of nation, you don't have to go out searching for a man, or you don't have to go out book. When you demonstrate the Hajj within yourself and are going through these various cycles, and as you stated, which was a powerful demonstration, dealing with the cycles within yourself on a daily basis, because we make decisions hundreds and thousands of times within a day. And so it's basically fine-tuning our spiritual aspect to unfold into the God state. And when that happens, you're going to automatically draw that unto you. And this is where we give praises to Allah and honor to the Prophet for bringing these degrees and being able to recognize the God state within ourselves. And when we're looking at dealing with the Hajj, having that contention within the self, I also was thinking about the master word of more, being able to, first of all, recognize that there's a difference between the higher self and the lower self, and recognize what is illusion from what is not, so that builds the discernment within ourselves, so that we are able to not only, and this was such a powerful demonstration, not only deal with preparation in reference to a spouse or what have you, but any kind of relationship, and that is key. So it's also preparing us for being able to go on that spiritual path, dealing with the highways and byways, no matter who we come in contact with. Whether that person has a low vibration or not, we are so foundated within our higher nature that we don't allow any negative thought to take us off the path. So this is where that, when the Prophet speaks to us as purity, paving the way for love divine. And you got to clean up the thought pattern in order to continue to demonstrate that matrimonial Hajj within yourself. The other key that actually stood out to me in dealing with these degrees of self-mastery is that the adab degree is valid in all walks of life. So this is not something that we take on a surface matter or anything like that, because you're speaking about the unfoldment into the consciousness of who you are as God. And that Vanguard degree, which we're all masterminds in dealing with the study of the self, because this is what these lessons teach us, then you are finding yourself fortified, ever ready, because again, this thought came to me when you were teaching more, is that just like Yehoshua was studying all the holy books and things of that nature, and in preparation, you had Ravana taking him to the east, and he came in contact with different other ideologies, but he was still able to connect in the relationship that he built with the various other elements in different nations. So the same with us as far as Moorish science is concerned, or that Moorish Holy Temple of Science, and mastering the self, then we're able to be that friend to mankind. We're able to calm the fury. So and the four quadrants that you brought forth, definitely got to go into that further, because every time it's brought forth, it's, but just much gratitude to you more for this powerful class, and as the goddess stated, self as well. Definitely going to go back to the playback to get some more angel food. So gratitude more for calling me forth. Much peace and love to all of my Moorish kin. It's a song.
And gratitude and Islamism for that divine wisdom. We give honors to you, Grand National Secretary of the State. That's what I'm talking about. One band, one sound. All around the world, the Moorish Americans singing the same song. Goodness gracious, that hammer repetition on the manifest. Well, speaking of, Grand Droid, let us call forth our beloved National Assistant Grand Sheikh, Dr. Jehudi Bey. Islam, you there, Grand Man?
Great Sheikh of Moorish America.
and honors have been given, but you could never praise Allah and give honors to our holy prophet enough. Islam. So I rise and give praise to mighty God Allah and give honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I give honors to the Moorish American government, honors to Act One, honors to all the officials of Moorish America. I give honors to our Grand National Flag, our Grand National Seal, our Grand National Emblem. I give honors to all Moorish Americans here, there, and everywhere. I give honors to all those who spoke before me. I give honors to all those that will speak after me. I give honors to you, Dr. Shaheed, National Grand Sheikh, for this most powerful, Moorish perspectives class this evening. Once again, Grand Man, you find a way to always elevate us in the knowledge and love that you demonstrate. Islam, this is another one of those powerful demonstrations. Talking about the duty of the husbandman and the matrimonial Hajj, Egyptian at that. Also, let me give, also say, happy Holy Week, family. And I want to give much love to our Grand Sheikh, Dr. Serapis Ming Rael, Emeritus. We love you, Grand Sheikh. This class have, there was like ones that said there was so many keys, Grand Man, and making that pilgrimage within, taking that Hajj within. It's so powerful the way you brought everything together. And as the goddess has spoken about, when you were speaking about those chakras and how ones would ascend to that highest point, and the way you put it together, where the one, the man and the woman would continuously reach that point to the crown chakra. And I remember how when I found my twin flame, we had came together and we put our foreheads together, and we prayed together, and we brought our Creator into that union. Before anything happened, we wanted to make sure that our great God Allah was there. Islam, and it was a beautiful, beautiful feeling. But before that could even happen, I myself had to, as you were saying, Grand Man, I had to sacrifice that animal, that lower self, in order to reach that pinnacle of highest form of divine love. I had to go through some things. I had to erase some of that naught and clean out some of those dark rooms that was within. And, I had to find who I am. I had to get to the point of loving myself in order to love anyone else. I had to know what that love meant, Islam, and having a divine love mindset instead of a materialistic mindset. Wanting those illusions that ones think that they need, like a big cake or a big limousine driving you to a church, or a big 100 people at your ceremony, and DJs and the fireworks and all that. You don't need none of that. None of that. All you need is you, yourself, your goddess or your God man, and Allah. And that's where the fireworks begin. Islam, that spiritual love, ascending all the way to that crown chakra. Islam, once we maintain that balance within and understand who we are, being able to love oneself, because we we were taken away from ourselves. So once we learn how to relearn how to love ourselves, we create a sustainable ability to be able to love physically, mentally, socially, and spiritually. You spoke about those 4 pillars, God, man, and it's just part of knowing who made us and who we are. Once again, having that divine love mindset. And this is a very powerful class. And once we be able to mastermind these, the ability to know who we are within, mastermind being able to understand that we're one with the great God Allah, connecting one, not just to, my twin flame, but knowing within that with our great God Allah, that I'm not just connected to her, I'm connected to everything, the universe, and I'm just being one with all that, being one with everything that Allah has created. That's that holy matrimonial Hajj that we've taken within, knowing that we are one with the great God Allah. And it's a beautiful feeling knowing that that we've reached that pinnacle of divine wisdom and divine love. So gratitude, Grand Man, for this class. Once again, it's a beautiful feeling knowing that we sit with mastermind and we learn Islam, Grand Man. Peace and love. It's grand class.
Islam. Gratitude, Sheikh. Peace and love to you as well. And we hope that our family most definitely have now a clear conception of what we mean in rising in love as opposed to falling in love. Because love ain't something you fall in, nor do we make it. Love is something we rise into, and love made us. Islam. All right. Gratitude, Grand Man. Well, speaking of love making us, let's talk and bring forth an expression, one of the greatest love thoughts made manifest in this new era and time. Yeah, I said it. I'm talking about my Grand National Chairman, Dr. Akin Acton Pert M. Heru Tutankhamun Bey. Islam Love Angel, you there? Goodness gracious. Vibrating the ethers already, you are?
One that bring to us is more from us nostrils. Everything that it takes to serve a nation. And you cannot have a nation without having a husband and wives in it. Out here, we're talking about the foundation. And so when you get to talk about matrimonial obligations, you're talking about responsibility. And this is something that we have to be assured that it's something that, in other words, it's not just held down just by I'm on my hand. No, you're talking about the divinity there. Never leave out the divinity. This is like when you look at the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. The divinity is there, although you don't fail in love. Well, the thing about it is, how you gonna fall in it and you don't know nothing about it? You got to be it, and that's exactly what the marriage is all about. You got to be it. You got to be the message that you bring. So when you get to talk about the matrimonial heart, you talk about being your own self, the master that you are. So you cannot be a husband without being a master. You cannot be a wife without being a master. And because why? Because now you talk about your nation within. What's your nation about?
sons and daughters. Yeah, these are seeds that you produce, but it's carrying on. And so it's just a marital thing when it comes down to and we got all this out from our forefathers. That's why the Bible let you know when it come down to the duty of a husband, then you're looking at the ancient Commission, or if you want, the Egyptian Adept mastership. And this is really what it's all about. So, boy, this is a very powerful journey. And we just so pumped up right now. Islamism without the skill. Peace and blessings.
Islamism, man, I love to get that grand vibration out of our chairman, man. Y'all see that wisdom. Man, I'm just over here smiling, because our chairman been loving on us and our people for a long time, Morris Ken, and teaching us to do the same thing. If some of that can rub off on us, man, we'll be free overnight. So we give honors to you, chairman, for all of the love you put in that book of fire, the flag, the seal, the emblem, the ensign, the declaration, proclamation of status and jurisdiction. Countless years you was on the manifest when some of us was still in the nest or the nest wasn't made manifest. Gratitude to the tribe of endurance. Goodness gracious. And gratitude for the love that has endured through the tribe of endurance. So yeah, family, it's been a grand drawing, of bringing this measure on the manifest. We actually couldn't wait to come forth to bring this measure to our family, so that we can really go into the essence of this journey. Because before we take the physical journey, we got to take the spiritual journey. And it was necessary for a lot of us who had to sever ties that were nothing more than straws or bonds of straw, so to speak. And so in order that the spiritual tie may come in. And so with that being said, we give honors to the deific tie that link us, to all of our, officials emeritus, our National Grand Sheikh, Dr. Serapis Amin Rael, our beloved National Grand Mufti Emeritus, Tahaka Bey, man, the Prophet, all of those who are working as ascended masters, from the plane of soul. And if somebody told you that our brothers, and guiders were gone and that they wasn't here, man, you can't erase love. Love is immortal. And so is the thought. That being said, January 15, 1929, a warning from the prophet to be read at every meeting. I hereby inform all citizens that they must end all radical agitating speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any citizen or group of citizens who hold malicious feelings toward the government of the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the laws laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where our prophet found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Drew Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the government is not right. The prophet therefore is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the government. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. By order of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, we bring forth this divine decree. Chapter 25, a holy covenant of the Asiatic nations. Ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care, and the breasts of one mother have given you suck. Let the bonds of affection therefore unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in our Father's house. And when ye separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. If thy brother's in adversity, assist him. If thy sister's in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care be continued to you all in your love to each other. Go in peace, Muslims. Moorish movement, divine movement, everlasting movement. You and I tie. Islam, ism without the schism. Peace and love.
Sheet, Grand Class, W.
Islam, y'all know we love y'all too, Moors. With a grand love thought, undying. Want to give honor to our brothers who showed up also in social media, Charles Warrior, Tyrif Bay, you know, and we give honors to the love thought. Make sure you make this one go viral, Moors. These people need to hear this love. These are our people, all of them. Every last iota. We love you. Islamism. Peace and love.